I have here with me Iowa City Public Works Director Rick Fosse. Rick, thanks for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we are going to talk about a very popular subject in Iowa City, snow removal and snow plowing. So last winter was a huge challenge to us, but let's talk about generally the principles that apply in snow plowing. When does the city start plowing in a snow event, as you call them?
Well, our plows head out as soon as we start to have snow or ice accumulating on the roads out there. And we watch the radar closely, so we usually get a head start on when it's starting to move into the town.
Not only do you plow, but you do other treatments to the streets. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. We spread sand or sand and salt or a straight salt mix on the roads. And really our preference when we can do it is to spread straight salt at a rate of about 150 to 200 pounds per lane mile. That works very well. But there are conditions in which we can't do that. And we use the rule of 15s to decide when we need to mix sand with the salt. And that rule is that if the pavement temperature is below 15 degrees, and that's pavement temperature, not air temperature, or the wind is greater than 15 miles per hour, we need to mix about 50% salt with 50% sand and then put it down at a heavier rate, about 400 pounds per lane mile. And then if we get in a situation like we were at the end of last year where we're almost out of salt, we put down primarily sand with just about 20% salt mixed in it just so it doesn't freeze in the trucks.
And I remember some discussion a couple of years ago, and I think sugar was involved or something other than salt. What was that?
There are various coatings that you can put on your salt, and one of them involved sugar beets, another involved a corn byproduct. What we like to use is a magnesium chloride solution that goes on the outside of the salt. It's a wet solution that goes on there. And what that does is it extends the melting range of the salt so that it'll work at lower temperatures. And it also makes it just a little bit tacky, so when it hits the pavement, it doesn't scatter to the side quite as much as just straight salt will.
So what are the advantages? You have different mixtures that you use on the streets. What is the advantage of straight salt? You said it works very well.
It does, and it's a trend in the industry to go this direction because of the advantages. As I mentioned, the application rate for straight salt is about half of that for a sand-salt mix. So when our trucks go out on the road, they can stay out twice as long. That's important. They spend more time plowing than going back for more material. And then secondly, when you apply straight salt, you don't have the residue, the sand residue left over in between storms. And that's just a nuisance because it creates a lot of dust during the winter period. It wears away our centerline markings and crosswalks. And then in the spring, it's a problem for bicyclists, motorcyclists, and it also finds its way into the storm sewer as well.
And so we see the trucks out there, they're spreading salt probably, and they're also plowing. But talk a little bit, how many trucks do we have? What kind of routes do they have to drive?
We have 11 trucks. So we have the city divided into 11 snow routes. And each of the snow routes within it has 3 priorities of streets. The highest priority streets include the arterials and bus routes. The medium priorities are collector streets. And then our lowest priority streets are flat residential streets.
When the snow starts falling, you'll attend first to the arterial streets and the bus routes, right?
Yes, and if the storm is of much of a magnitude, they'll stay focused on those arterial street routes, the highest priority, until the snow begins to subside, and then they'll move into the medium and low priority routes.
And sometimes I've seen, and I think people have commented to me, that they see snow plows driving around town with their blades up. Now, why would that be?
There's a couple good reasons for that. One is they may be traveling out to their route, and you can travel faster with your blade up. We want to get the trucks out to where they're supposed to be and get them to work there. The other thing is when they're driving through other people's routes, they don't know if salt has already been applied and not had a chance to work yet. And since each truckload of salt costs about $1,000, we don't want to plow that off the street before it's had a chance to work. Another reason you may see them with the blades up is in small snowfalls. We know that just a minimum application of salt is going to clear the street completely. And there's a cost to having the blades down. They have a wearing surface that you need to replace. And last year we spent over $24,000 just replacing that wearing surface on the blades.
So you can wear a snowplow blade out within a season?
Yeah, oh yes, many times over.
Okay. A couple of times, I end up doing the shoveling in our household. We live on a corner, and I scoop out the sidewalks in the driveway. But a couple of times, those get plowed shut more than once in a snow event. Why is that?
That's usually when we have a significant snow. And what we do is we'll go out and make one quick pass in each direction on each street, just to establish access for the residents and access for emergency vehicles. And then as we get caught up, we'll come back and plow a second time, curb to curb. And that's why sometimes you need to shovel your driveway out twice.
So curb to curb probably is a real challenge in Iowa City. There's a lot of on-street parking, and I'm sure that residents can help make sure that the streets get cleared adequately. What can residents do to help out your snowplow drivers?
Well, getting the cars off the street is the biggest thing, and that's especially true on our residential streets. Sometimes if cars are parked across the street from each other, we just can't even get the plow down the street. And then around cul-de-sac bulbs are very difficult if there are parked cars out there. So we can do a better job, and we can get it done quicker if people are parking in their driveways and in their garages during snowstorms. The other thing that helps is that when people are clearing their driveways and running their snow blowers, not to blow it back out into the street.
So last winter was pretty intense for us. How much salt did we go through last winter, and then what's an average salt usage for a winter in Iowa City?
Well, last winter we used 3,400 tons of salt, and we could have used more than that, but we couldn't buy it, couldn't be had at any price. In an average winter, we use about 1,500 tons, so less than half of what we used last winter. We have 2,000 tons on store already for this year, and we hope to acquire some more before the winter's over, so we'll be prepared for what Mother Nature throws us.
So we think the sources will be good for this winter's salt if it is a rough one again?
No, actually it's been very difficult to acquire salt this year, and just getting responses to bids or requests for prices has been difficult. And I think what we're seeing across the Midwest is people are gearing up with at least as much salt as they used last year or more, and it's putting a pinch on the suppliers.
And I know this isn't technically your area, but snow removal doesn't only deal with roads, but it also deals with sidewalks. Can you talk a little bit about what the regulations and rules are for sidewalk snow removal? Because that's critical in a place like Iowa City where so many people walk.
Oh, it is. And what the rule in Iowa City is that you clear your sidewalk within 24 hours of the end of the snowfall. And certainly when we have as much pedestrian traffic as we do here, it's to your advantage to get out as soon as you can before the traffic begins to pack it down into something that's more difficult to remove. Another thing that's important there is people who live at corners, that they shovel out the crosswalks. And just like your driveway, the crosswalks occasionally need to be shoveled out more than once for a single storm. Traffic has a way of working the snow back into those.
Rick, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate the information about snow removal, and I wish you and your drivers a much nicer winter than we had last year.
Thank you.